Everyone, I have a confession to make. I'm becoming a Sonic fan. Yeah, in the past year, I've really been getting into the Sonic franchise. It started when I got 7 Sega Dreamcast games for like $1 on Steam, which includes Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. And then the next thing I knew, my humanity was lost. That also means I've gotten into the Sonic IDW comics as well. The series started in 2017 after Sonic and Archie's deal eventually ended after an over 25-year run. It was one of the longest running comics. It went on so long that one of the writers went crazy and now believes he's like the god of the echidnas or something, which prompted Archie to factory reset the comic series. If you want to find out more, there's plenty of videos on the topic. It's really fascinating how one man can completely screw everything up. The IDW one was made to kind of reboot the comic series, restart from scratch, and probably better fit the current brand of Sonic. These comics can have multiple writers, but the head honcho is this guy, Ian Flynn, who has actually written plenty of Archie comics, like starting around issue 160. And even after the Archie comic series went down, Ian Flynn was brought on to this new series. For this video, I'll be looking at the first 3 volumes, which consist the first arc this story will have. I'm also going to keep this video short and concise. I don't want to make the same mistake as my Ace Attorney video, where it started off as a simple side project as I worked on my main video, but then it turned into its own behemoth. Gotta keep this under control. I'll go over a quick plot synopsis of each volume and talk about some points of the story, art, dialogue, and such, just to keep things consistent. The story starts with Sonic going to town to help the citizens. Can I just quickly say that almost all the civilians in this series are completely worthless? You can't even open a door, you weak little shit. As Sonic is beating the badniks, Tails comes along and helps Sonic save the town. According to the comic, after the events of Sonic Forces, Eggman went missing and the badniks have been going around aimlessly, but recently they've been more coordinated. They think Eggman might be back, but he would have made it known that he was returning because his ego is larger than his fat gut. Sonic then moves on to the next village where he runs into Amy. Amy tries to convince Sonic to come back to the Resistance, but Sonic's like, no. Amy is currently the head of the Resistance and has been helping rebuild society after Eggman took over. They defend the town and Amy points Sonic in the direction of Knuckles so he can go help him out. Sonic meets up with Knuckles, who tells Sonic that he's here to find out what happened to the Wispin shipment and why it all dried up. If you don't know, Wisps are little alien creatures introduced in Sonic colors, and they look like little jellyfish and butt plugs. They infiltrate the base and find 2 new characters, Rough and Tumble. They're skunks, so they stink up the room to try to detour Sonic and Knuckles. The plan fails though, and they're promptly defeated because they really stink. Get it? Because, you know, they're skunks. They smell like shit. Sonic then moves on to the next city, and we meet one of the new main protagonists of the comic series, Tangle. She has this really long, stretchy tail, and she can use it to fling herself around. I really like her design, and not just because she looks cool, but also because she looks as though she was designed with a gameplay function in mind. Like, I can totally see her being a playable character flying through the air grabbing things like Spider-Man. Anyway, we fight some badniks, and then Blaze the cat shows up. Isn't Blaze, like, from another dimension and also a princess? Why is she here? Well, anyway, they continue fighting, and Blaze sends Sonic up to the ship deploying the badniks. And he destroys it, saving the town. Apparently Blaze came to this dimension as the Soul Stones alerted her that something dangerous was going on. Why are the Soul Gems so concerned that another world is in danger? Shouldn't they be protecting their own? I never saw the Chaos Emeralds give a rat's ass about other worlds, the selfish bastards. The comic ends with Eggman threatening to fix everything. Good luck with that, Eggman. This world is fucked. And that's volume 1. If it seems I kind of rushed through it, that's because the first volume is very simplistic. It's basically just Sonic going around saving villagers and meeting up with new and old characters. It's mostly used as a way to set up the world and meet the protagonists and characters for the people who are just jumping into the comic series without playing Forces or just not playing Sonic in general. And it does a pretty good job doing so. It establishes who these characters are via interactions. Like we see how well Sonic and Tails work together in the first issue. Amy being love-struck with Sonic, but also level-headed. Knuckles is someone who takes his missions very seriously, and so on. They're very well written, and they do a good job catching you up on who these guys are very quickly with how they interact with Sonic. Before moving on, I want to talk about the artwork. In these 4 issues, they were done by different people. Tracy Yardley, Adam Bryce Thompson, Jennifer Hernandez, and Evan Stanley. They all have very distinct styles. Adam's art is very expressive, it's probably my favorite of the 4, and the action set pieces are very detailed. The beginning really emphasizes it. The top panel shows a complex machine in a very lush green area, and below we see water splashing around Sonic, blur lines around the machine's legs that show the speed it's trying to step on him, the detail and shading on Sonic. I also like the sunrise aesthetic. I'm always a sucker for the soft oranges and yellows, very calming. Jennifer's style is much more simplistic, as these outlines are very thick, like thicker than my frickin' skull. Gives much more of a cartoonish feel, which I think fits Sonic, especially since this issue puts more emphasis on comedy and exaggeration, so I think it works, even if at times it can look a little off. What's going on with Knuckles' spines? It's like he turned into Medusa. Medusa is kind of weird, isn't she? Like, imagine having living snakes in your hair. I'd kill myself. The art in this is very well done. I congratulate the artist. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into Volume 2. This volume starts with Sonic and Espio as he, along with Vector and Charmy, were able to locate Dr. Eggman to this village. Thing is, Dr. Eggman seemingly forgot his own identity and now goes by Mr. Tinker. Sonic doesn't buy this in the slightest, but as time goes on, he seems more and more convinced that Eggman is being legitimate in his amnesia. But then Eggman brings up Eggman Land, and Sonic is like,
wait a minute!
And Shadow, along with Rouge, hears it as well. Shadow's unconvinced and basically wants to kill Eggman, which I agree, but Sonic is like, no, we have to give him a second chance. What are you, Christian? You read that from the Bible? He even uses Shadow's past to try to convince him, but Shadow was based off like a massive misunderstanding of Maria's wants. Granted, a misunderstanding that nearly led to the destruction of the world, but a misunderstanding nevertheless. Eggman has been trying to take over and destroy the world like on multiple occasions. The series takes place only a few months after Forces, where he took over 99% of Earth. Now, I understand this is a children's series. They're not going to kill Eggman. This is mostly being used to set up conflict later in the Metal Virus arc, where everyone's upset at Sonic for letting the world's worst person live. It falls flat, though, because I firmly do believe Sonic is in the wrong here. This is the wrong decision. Eggman is too dangerous regardless of memories. Ah well, I'm jumping way ahead, so let's back it up a bit. Shadow's pretty convinced that Eggman lost his memories after seeing Eggman Land being a children's amusement park, so they let Eggman be. Sonic is still worried, though, as evident from his thought bubble. Can I just bring up that I feel like this is a very clumsy way to handle like what characters are thinking, and exposition at that. Like when you have Sonic by himself and he's just trying to sort his thoughts out, it's fine, but here, Sonic's thought bubble shows he's picking up on Eggman Land, but it's not necessary. His face tells me everything I need to know. If this was a book with no pictures, then that would be one thing, but this is a comic. Facial expressions can do a lot when it comes to knowing what characters are thinking. Thankfully, they get a lot better at the whole thought bubble thing later in the comics. Anyway, after leaving this war criminal, Sonic infiltrates a ship and finds Neo Metal Sonic on it. They fight, Sonic escapes and reports back to the Resistance as we see Neo on his way to Angel Island. That was a very short issue, but we got a badass fight with art done by Adam Bryce Thomas again. The fights in this series are very kinetic, which is good considering Sonic himself is all about speed. Not only that, but it's important to be able to follow what's going on, otherwise all you'll be looking at is random visual noise. For example, here you see Sonic up against the wall, and then him running from the wall with a confused Neo for good measure. Neo gets ready to chase Sonic as he bursts through the window, and Neo gives chase. A lot is going on, but it's easy to follow. The final issue shows Sonic's infiltrating Eggman's base, where we meet Silver, who came back from the past since the future is still fucked up despite Eggman getting his shit wrecked at the end of Forces. They continue in the base and get some help from Whisper the Wolf, another new character. A detail that I like is that when she speaks, the words in the box are generally smaller than the rest, that shows that she's not speaking very loudly. The dialogue in the text boxes, I think, are done by Sean Lee and Corey Breen. I say I think because it simply credits them as letters? What the hell is that supposed to mean? This isn't a mailing service. It's not UPS. Is it talking about the dialogues or the onomatopoeias that show up? I'm going to assume it's the dialogue, and if it's not, you guys can correct me later in the comments. When writing comics like this, you generally want the size and the font of the letters to stay consistent, as that makes it easier to read. It's also important to place dialogue boxes in a way that makes sense so you can follow the flow of the conversation without getting lost. You don't want to zigzag all over the place. This also means that the illustrator needs to take into consideration what's being said by what character and how much, since you'll need to figure out how you're going to position everything for every single panel. This also means that the writer needs to know not when to start barfing info when it's not really needed, like in action sequences. Even when you do have them in action, they're generally kept short, or they pull the characters to the side to give them some breathing room, so too much stuff doesn't start cluttering the page. That's the thing about comics. It's a very big collaboration effort. Everyone has to be on the same page, literally, otherwise things will go south real fast. Anyway, Whisper is a loner because, you know, she's a wolf. The series sure does like its wordplay. I sure do hope we get a poison dart frog who does nothing but shout profanities. She always helps, but never truly joined the Resistance. She helps Sonic and Silver get the info they need, in which they discover that Neo has taken over Angel Island. So the story seems to pick up a little. We're getting past the introductions, and we're starting to set up the fight with Neo Metal Sonic, who's now taken over Angel Island. In a weird way, I feel like we're kind of reading an end of the story here. Like, we're only on the second volume, yet we're clearly reaching the climax of whatever this is. In a way, these volumes kind of feel more like an epilogue to Forces, cleaning up the last few bit of plot threads that game left behind and getting it all out of the way so we can move on to different, completely unrelated stories. It does make it a little jarring, though. It's like I entered halfway through a movie, and like, it's not even the movie I wanted to see. Like, you entered the wrong theater, but you already sat down. You don't want to be a bother walking over anyone's feet since you already did that when you tried to get to your seat. So you just try to enjoy the movie with the context clues that are scattered about. Yeah, it's like that. Volume 3. This volume starts with Sonic and friends heading off to Angel Island to take Metal Sonic. I like how at the start you can see everyone just hanging out before the big battle. It's gonna take some time to get there, so they're all trying to relax before it. It's really neat. After they arrive, Sonic and Knuckles heads towards Neo while everyone else takes out the takes out the artillery outside, and Shadow just kind of goes off for a bit. Who knows what he's doing? Sonic and Knuckles finds Neo, and he uses the Master Emerald to make him into Super Neo Metal Sonic. Sounds like the name of a band from the 90s that sang that screamo stuff. Like, not even all that well. Like, it sounds like a dying hippo. Anyway, Neo lays waste to Sonic and Knuckles, but then Shadow comes along and stabs him in the chest, incapacitating him. Unfortunately, Neo then uses the Master Emerald to transform into the Overdrive form. Hey, this isn't right. There should have been at least 30 pages dedicated to this thing transforming. While all this is happening, Eggman is back at the village until he gets kidnapped by this dude, Dr. Starline, who's a big fan of Eggman and wants to bring him back to his former glory. The Sonic team tries to take out Neo, but unfortunately, they don't really do anything. And in the end, it takes Tails ramming an entire ship into Neo to, like, do any kind of real damage to him, and Knuckles manages to tear the Emerald out, leaving him powerless. Sonic and Tails ends up fixing Metal because, Sonic just likes letting these guys off the hook, and Metal returns to Eggman's fortress where Eggman finally gets his memory back and sets up a new arc. This volume was fairly simplistic. It was purely focused on Metal Sonic and his fight with the team, with him growing more powerful as the story went on. Since these issues had more consistency, they had Tracy Yardley do the artwork for all of them, with Evan Stanley helping out with the last two issues. These fights were very well drawn and choreographed, and I liked how cool Neo was, how he took Sonic and Knuckles and just dragged them across the ground, causing serious rug burn. It was really cool. It also introduced Starline. We don't know much about him now, but he becomes a much more interesting character later down the line. And with that, we close the first arc of the IDW series. I thought it was pretty good. As I mentioned, it definitely feels like it's trying to close up plot points that lingered in the game, while also setting up these new original characters like Whisper, Tangle, Starline, Ruff, and Tumble, so they can do something more interesting with them in the next arc. I feel like the pacing was rather quick as well, almost like the writers are kind of rushing it along so they can move on to the story that they really wanted to tell. I thought it was fun though. I really like the characters, the humor, the facial expressions are great, the story was somewhat basic, but not awful, and they do a pretty good job keeping me invested for the future. Well, that's all I have to say about the IDW comics. Thank you all for watching, and have a good day.